Hi, and welcome to Home Assistant How-To with Bearded Thinker. Today, we will make a portable version of Home Assistant by using the RasPad Raspberry Pi tablet. We'll start in a couple of seconds. Before we go any further, I really would like to thank all the wonderful people who are supporting me on the YouTube channel and have become members. If you too want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join button down below. And also thanks to everybody who watched, liked or subscribed to my channel. Thank you all. Now let's get started with today's video. Couple months ago, RasPad has approached me and said that they would like to send me one unit for testing and recording videos, and it has been sitting on my desk for almost a month. The first problem was that I ran out of Raspberry Pi 4s, and I think that also the world ran out of it, and the prices of the ones available were a little bit too high. But I did manage to find one Raspberry Pi 4 locally, bought it, and did something that I was planning to do, even without RasPad, for some time. Last summer, when I was on vacation, I was thinking on, well, it would be great to have possibility to bring your home assistant with you to a vacation. Of course, our homes are automated and we are making them smart homes, but they rely on a local instance of Home Assistant. When you travel somewhere, no matter if it's just for one day or 1 month, you do not have Home Assistant. You have remote access to Home Assistant that gives you information about the location where your home is located. But what if you want to geek out completely and have Home Assistant follow you, meaning that you bring it with you on your vacation, busy trips, family trips, etc. There are a couple of issues here. First of all, we need some kind of a host that will run Home Assistant. There are a lot of hardwares that can run Home Assistant. Now you can buy Ember. Also you have official blue version of Home Assistant hardware. Then you have Raspberry Pis 3s and 4s. I run it on Synology. There is also Intel NUC or similar devices, old servers, desktops, etc. But we want to keep this portable. The next thing is that people like touch screens. There are a lot of videos out there on Home Assistant working on tablets. But when we say working on tablets, in reality it's not working on tablet. Tablet is used only to display the screen, as a dashboard. And that's when the idea came. Why not use a Raspberry Pi tablet? On one hand, Raspberry Pi will be used to host Home Assistant server. But also, if we manage, we can install the desktop, touchscreen controls, screen keyboard, and also use it as a dashboard for Home Assistant. And it really is bring your own Home Assistant with you. And when you put 2 and 2 together, not really 2 and 2, when you put Raspberry Pi and RasPad 3 together, you end up with something like this. And it also comes with a Zigbee stick. No, it doesn't come in a box, but you can connect Zigbee, Z-Wave or some other devices to it. And then you have your own portable smart home. So why would you do it? A lot of things that I do because I want to try and see if I can do it. And this was one of those projects. But yes, in reality, you can run your own Home Assistant setup purely from this device. And as I mentioned previously, you do have two-in-one device. You can install Home Assistant server, Supervised version, and also have desktop, so you have one device where you are hosting Home Assistant, but also using the Lovelace UI to control the integrations and other devices that are integrated inside Home Assistant. Is the setup easy? Yes, and I will show you what you have to do to get this up and running. There are some steps that I will not guide you through, but they are easy. First things first, let's go to the RasPad official documentation. Please note that you have to follow the documentation as is written and don't haste like me. One thing that you may miss, and I did miss, is that image you must download is RasPi OS ARM from the May 28th of 2020, not the latest version. After you download the image, in the Raspberry Pi imager, choose OS, select Custom, select the image that you have downloaded, press Open, choose Storage, and before you click Write, press Shift-Ctrl-X and fill out the data here. First of all, enable SSH, type here the password. Next, configure your SSID, and when you're done, just press Save. After configuring your password for the SSH, just click on Write. Yes to continue, but be careful because this process deletes all the data that is on the card. After the verification has finished, press on Continue and take out the SD card. After you have inserted the card, assembled everything, plugged in your tablet, turn it on by pressing and holding the button for 5 seconds. And finish the Raspberry Pi installation. Click OK and note the IP address here. For me it's 192.168.1.169. Press Next. Select Country. English, US keyboard for me. Next. Let's leave the default password. Next and skip update. Done. And let's briefly do the installation of mandatory RasPad drivers. First we'll start with Virtual Keyboard driver. Copy sudo install onboard. Paste command, press enter. Now copy the following line and run it. Now on your RasPad do following. In the preferences, onboard settings, select auto show when editing, show when unlocking the screen. In window, check that dock to screen edge is checked on. For me it was already checked. In auto show, select auto show when editing text if it's not already set. For the layout, small version of the keyboard is suggested, but you can play with the other types. And in the theme, dark room once again is recommended. Whenever you restart or reboot the system, you need to activate the keyboard by going to Universal Access and Onboard. If you want to make keyboard visible, just press on this button, Show on board, and it will be visible. If you need to drag it, use 2 fingers to drag it across the screen. And if you want to close it, just press the X sign here. Next, let's press right-click on RasPad and follow the same steps. I'll just quickly copy all the commands. In the rc.local file, before the exit command, we have to insert this line here. Copy it, press Ctrl X to save it, press Y as yes, press Enter to confirm the file name, and let's do the reboot. After system has rebooted, press OK. Don't forget to press Pi, Universal Access and Onboard for screen keyboard to show up. And we can also now test the pop-up screen or right-click, just press and hold on the screen and the right-click menu shows up on the screen. Next and the final step before we begin installing Home Assistant is optional, but I do like it, and believe it or not, I did like the Home Assistant UI, loveliest UI, in the portrait mode. So I really do recommend that you install also the rotating screen service. And once again, copy the commands. First is git clone, then change to the folder we just cloned, and now copy this Python install script and press enter. After the script finishes and it needs to download something, update something, install something, activate something, we will have rotational screen or our RasPad. And once again, reboot your system. Press yes. Now that RasPad has rebooted, it's time to install Home Assistant. And we will be using this installation method for advanced users only. Am I advanced user? No, but I figured out that I can try it, and it works. So first step is to run following. Couple of commands that we will be using now will reset our network connection. And unfortunately, since I'm using Wi-Fi connection and I'm using DHCP, each time it reconnects, it gets the new IP address. And the MAC address also changes. So you will have to find the new IP address of your Raspberry Pi when that happens. And I will tell you when it will happen. Also, one command you must run directly on RasPad because it needs to pop up a screen and it will not pop it up in the command line interface and it will hang the installation process. But I will warn you when we reach that point. So let's start copying. First, we'll copy the following command. Type sudo and then right-click to paste the command. You have to type in sudo first because this command, as it says here, needs to run as a root user. Press enter. My connection has reset and the new IP address of my system is 187. So let me reconnect. We can try and run this command once again to be sure that everything has been installed. If everything was correctly installed, it will say that nothing will be installed. That's it. Next command is to install Docker. Once again sudo and paste here the command. It will take once again a couple of minutes for this to finish installing. And Docker is installed. There are just two more steps until we finish up installing Home Assistant. First, we need to install the OS agent. OS agent is pre-installed in Home Assistant OS, but here we have to manually install it. To install it, there are two steps. First, from the list of all available OS agents, select one that we need to use. For Raspberry Pi, we will be using this OS agent. Current version is 1.2.2, Linux, ARM, version 7, Deb for Debian. Right-click it, copy link address, and in the terminal type following wget and paste the URL. Press enter. This has downloaded the agent. And the last step in the process is to type in or copy following command. Sudo dpkg for package -i and then the name of the file we just downloaded. So I'll type first part of the command sudo dpkg -i and then I'll copy from here the name, paste it here and press enter. The installation is very quick. If we go now to step 4 or the last step for the installation of Home Assistant, we have to do two things. First, we have to get this Debian file, which I'll copy and paste. And there is only one additional step in the guide, but unfortunately, if you would now run this last command, the installation would fail. And the reason for that is that we need to install one additional file. And this is the AppArmor. Let's press enter. From my testing, if you fail to install this AppArmor, the Home Assistant installation would fail. It would warn you that you need to install AppArmor. And when you install it, it should continue with the installation. And now we just need to run this command. Of course, sudo once again. But we will not do it through this user interface because A, it once again resets network connection, and B, there is a pop-up screen that we need to select the package for our installation. So let's go to our RasPad. On your Raspberry Pad, type ls. We now have Home Assistant Supervised.deb. So let's type sudo -i Home Assistant Supervised deb. And when we now press enter, if everything is okay, the system will install the supervisor and start downloading all the files it needs from the internet. At this point, network connection has been reset. You can see that it is waiting for the version for Home Assistant IO. That can sometimes fail if it doesn't manage to reconnect quickly enough. If it fails, just repeat the command. And you know how to repeat commands in Linux. You just use the arrows. Let's scroll down. Select here Raspberry Pi 4. Press enter. And let me repeat the command because it wasn't able to reach Docker IO. Network is reset. It is trying to reconnect. Since we previously selected the Raspberry Pi 4, it will now proceed with the installation of the Home Assistant Supervised on our Raspberry Pi RasPad. The installation time of Home Assistant can be very long. Unfortunately, it will seem on the RasPad like everything hanged. The only way for you to see if something is going on is to have either Pertainer installed, which we still haven't installed on our RasPad, and the other option is to see if there is a traffic on the new IP address. In 1 minute and 50 seconds, it already has almost 200 megabytes of downloaded data. From previous installations, it looks like it needs around 8 to 900 megabytes to install and start the Home Assistant on the Raspberry Pi or RasPad. Everything is now done in our command line interface, but we are still waiting for data to be downloaded from the internet and installed. And if you know how Home Assistant installation works, Home Assistant really is a small file that then uses internet connection to pull data, the current version of data, from the GitHub repository. So we have to wait until all of the data for all the necessary Docker containers is pulled by Supervisor. It took about 650 megabytes of traffic on this new address for this screen to show up. And 20-25 minutes later, and some additional 300 megabytes of traffic, here it is. You can now create a new account or import settings from your previous snapshot if you have one. I'll be creating a new installation. Let me create account. Detect. I will leave everything as is. Next. I will provide basic analytics, usage, statistical data, and diagnostics. And if you are concerned about privacy, remember this data is used very carefully. None of the personal information is shared, but the data itself, when it is aggregated from all Home Assistant users, is used to negotiate better deals in terms of local access to the APIs with various vendors. Let's press Next. Let's press Finish. And the installation of Home Assistant on the RasPad is done. So you may wonder, why is this so special? Yeah, I'm using this on my desktop PC. But let's go to RasPad. Type in the IP address of your Raspberry Pi. Followed by 8123 port, press enter. And log in with the account you created. Press login, 3 dots, full screen. And now you have, for the first time, Home Assistant running in the same box where it is shown its UI. As I mentioned, you can use it as any other Raspberry Pi, Intel NUC, Home Assistant Blue hardware. You plug in the CC2531 Zigbee module, go to Configuration, Integrations, press on Add Integration, scroll down to Zigbee Home Automation, select the name of the device, press Submit, and you now will have Home Assistant running on RasPad 3, Raspberry Pi 4, tablet, with the Zigbee support on it. And Luis, let me see you do that on the Amber. You still need to add touchscreen to it. Finish. Raspberry Pi, RasPad, mobile device, powered by battery, running Home Assistant. And don't forget, this device has speakers, so you can use it to play sound, which is something that is supported now in Home Assistant. It has already Bluetooth support inside, so you can use the Bluetooth to connect, for example, to Xiaomi devices or SwitchBot devices. You can even add additional sticks, for example, Z-Wave stick. You can install the SSD drive internally. As I mentioned previously, it has batteries, it has enough ports, HDMI output port, and you can of course dim the screen to reduce the battery usage and reduce or mute the volume. And this is it for this Home Assistant how-to with Bearded Tinker. I really had fun, and I will definitely be having more fun by playing with this mobile Home Assistant installation to figure out what use can I find for it, for example, when I travel or go to a vacation. At least for now, I know that I can pull the local weather information and have it display that. Maybe if the hotel or apartment I'm visiting has Chromecast devices and I use the same network, maybe I can even attach to them. But as I said, I still have to play and find additional uses and use cases for them. Yes, of course, if you have RV or recreational vehicles such as Dr. Z, you can use this not just to power your RV smart home, but also as a touchscreen to control everything in the RV. So there are a lot of cases for this small device. The link to this device is down in the description of the video together with all the other links and commands, some of the commands that I did use in this video. This device once again was sent to me free of charge for the purpose of doing videos and testing, and I will definitely be testing it more and playing with it. The next step will be installing Clipper on it, hooking it up to the Ender 3 printer and using it as a clipper, which means brains, but also as a touchscreen to control the printer itself. Maybe I will find some additional uses and record some additional videos on it, but we will see what the future will bring. I really do hope that you did enjoy this video, and if you did enjoy it, please give me a thumbs up, because it not just means a lot to me, but it also helps with the YouTube algorithms. If you still haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notified when I release my future videos and streams. If you have any kind of a comment or a question, you can always find me on the Discord server, but also feel free to leave comment down in the comment section below with the note, yes, YouTube still hasn't fixed the bug with disappearing comments. And I'll be seeing you next time. Until then, bye bye and have